Open the third plenary meeting. Today, we will continue consideration of Agenda Item 8, General Debate. States are invited, in accordance with Rule 50 of the Rules of Procedure of the Assembly, to deliver statements of no longer than 5 minutes. Given the challenges faced by the coronavirus pandemic, the modalities of holding the general debate include the pre-recorded videos or in-person statements. States in a position to do so are invited to submit written statements only, which would be posted on the website of the Assembly. The list of speakers can be found at the ASP website and conference officer's desk. Let us proceed immediately with our first speaker, His Excellency, Mr. Cristian Guillermo Fernandez, Vice Minister of Foreign Affairs of Costa Rica. You have the floor, Excellency.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. And you can now imagine how pleased I am to see you chairing this meeting and have the opportunity to say hello to you. If you allowed me, can I put out my mask? Thank you. Señora Presidenta, Excelencias, Delegados.
Madam President, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, Mr. Fernandez de Grumende, allow me to start by congratulating you on holding this August Assembly and for reiterating Costa Rica's unwavering commitment to all of the noble aims of this court and the Rome Statute. Our greetings and congratulations go to the authorities of the court who were elected at the last assembly, also Prosecutor Karim Khan and the 6 new judges, including Don Sergio Jugal. And we wanted to also congratulate the registrar and president of the court as well. This has been a year of great challenges, and the efforts undertaken to overcome the pandemic, I think, have placed a lot of limitations on everything, including on in-person meetings. But the commitment of everyone involved and all of the different aspects of the way in which the court works, as well as the states parties to the Rome Statute, have done everything to make sure that work could continue, and it's led to us even celebrating this 20th ASP. So those are the words of our commitment, and it attests to the commitment of one and all. The hard work that has been done at the court, I think, attests to everybody's commitment to international criminal justice, and it has enabled the court to maintain its momentum despite the obstacles that it's facing, in particular those regarding resources. Costa Rica is determined to maintain the court's integrity and independence. With this clear commitment, we have always supported the review mechanism of the court, and we do see with satisfaction that progress has been made over this last year on the review mechanism through the various working groups related thereto. We do think that the focal points and facilitators have made it possible to follow up on the IER recommendations, and they've been working tirelessly and energetically in discharging their mandates. All of this work is designed to help bolster the international criminal justice system and the struggle against impunity. Costa Rica encourages the court to continue seeking ways of improving its operations, including by looking for greater efficiency and efficacy. The civil society and states parties also need to continue working hand in hand with the court if it's to reach its objectives. And that is why we are delighted to see that work is being done on cooperation. More needs to be done if we are to reach universality. And we would like to encourage all of those countries who are part of the Rome Statute to continue working in this regard. They are still showing exemplarity and leadership, and yet we need to redouble our efforts so that those states that have still not become members lend their support to this independent criminal justice system. And when all is said and done, we also need to be prepared to defend the court when it receives attacks. And the same goes for civil society. We must not take a single step backwards. The financial situation, then, Madam President, well, we need to ensure that the court has the wherewithal in order to discharge its mandate, given that the increasing problem of liquidity of the court is an ongoing problem. We support giving the court the financial wherewithal that it had so that it can continue working, continue seeking synergies and savings, and yet continue working with streamlined operations and fulfill its goals. The struggle against impunity depends on our ability and the court's ability to fulfill this mandate, and that is why Costa Rica would like, as a priority, to see that the court be given the financial resources in order to do this. As part of the working group of New York, our mission undertook its responsibilities in this regard, and the liquidity issues meant that this crucial aspect is going to require all of our attention, and the court's commitment needs to be shown. Commitment to the court needs to be shown by timely and full payment of assessed contributions. If we want to make sure that this International Criminal Court is able to work as we all hope it will. The deputy prosecutors that are to be elected in this session, we think, is a singular task before us, and it's important that we choose the most effective candidates possible. And we thank the roundtables that have been arranged in order to ensure this, and we are looking forward to seeing the election process run smoothly. We need to remember that such an international system is in constant evolution, and Costa Rica shares a widespread concern when it comes for cyber warfare and its effects on civil society, and that is why we would like to see the Rome Statute applied to cyber warfare, and looking forward to seeing how this is going to develop in the 21st century, and that is why we are one of the co-sponsors, along with other member states, for looking at how this can be incorporated into our discussions. Along with the Netherlands, Canada, and various other states parties, we are running a parallel event, a side event, on legality concerning the referrals from the Security Council to the court. The court's work must not be impeded in this regard, and when it comes to atrocious crimes, the court should have absolute freedom and independence. We all need to fulfill our commitments to the court when it comes to upholding the highest principles for the benefit of a community. This court needs to be a compass guiding all who take part in the Rome Statute system, from the member states right down to the court staff and civil society. The Rome Statute offers a central role to victims and ensures dignity and reparations. We stand side by side with them, in particular the most vulnerable, women and children. And that is why, and as far as is possible, we need to bolster the activities of assistance to victims of sexual crimes and those who have suffered physical and psychological trauma. I think this reflects the importance and relevance of the humanist aspects of the court's functions. We should never forget that it's for the victims that we've continued to put in all of this work, because justice matters, and Costa Rica will continue applying the Rome Statute in a respectful and holistic manner to ensure peace and security. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your statement. It was very good to see you. I now give the floor to our next speaker, Her Excellency Ms. Astrid Hartz, Ambassador of Austria to the Netherlands. You have the floor, ma'am.
Madam Vice President, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues. In 2021, too many victims around the globe have once again suffered from atrocity crimes. In Afghanistan, the rise to power by the Taliban is a threat to the lives and fundamental rights of many, in particular of women and girls. Against this background, the International Criminal Court plays a key role in our message to the new rulers in Kabul, which is, the international community is watching you. There will be no impunity. We all know sometimes it needs a long breath for justice to prevail, but eventually it will. Just take the example of Darfur. Austria welcomes that in April next year, the trial against former Janjaweed leader Ali Kushaib will commence, more than 15 years after the arrest warrant was issued. But we also hope that former President al-Bashir will eventually be tried in The Hague. Unfortunately, many situations remain outside the jurisdiction of the ICC, such as Syria, Iraq, or Yemen. The recent escalation of violence in Ethiopia is particularly alarming. We cannot let impunity rule. Austria therefore calls for the universal ratification of the Rome Statute. In addition, the Security Council should use its power to refer conflict situations to the ICC, such as the horrendous crimes committed in Syria. The UN General Assembly has established the International Independent and Impartial Mechanism on Syria. We are hopeful that the ICC will one day use the evidence collected and preserved by this mechanism. At the same time, the court is busier than ever with new investigations in the Philippines and Venezuela. Therefore, we welcome the prosecutor's approach to strengthen complementarity to ensure that there is accountability either at the national or at the international level. And we strongly support efforts to elaborate a convention on the prevention and punishment of crimes against humanity. We believe that such a convention based on the work of the International Law Commission, would greatly improve international cooperation in order to prosecute the perpetrators of such crimes at the domestic level. Within this assembly, Austria also remains an active state party. In this regard, we support the ongoing review process and welcome the Bureau's decision to examine the lessons learned from the prosecutor's selection process. Ladies and gentlemen, the ICC is much more than an institution. It is a beacon that shines a light on the worst atrocities. It answers the call of victims for justice. The court itself must lead by example and act with absolute independence and impartiality. At the same time, all states and relevant stakeholders must fully respect the ICC's independence and impartiality. Let me assure you that Austria will continue to do its utmost to support the ICC and to strengthen the Rome Statute system. Thank you.
Thank you for your statement. I now give the floor to our next speaker, His Excellency Mr. Hidehisa Horinuchi, Ambassador of Japan to the Netherlands. You have the floor, sir.
Madam President, the ICC is an essential element of the rule-based international order and plays a vital role in the fight against impunity. Since joining the Rome Statute, Japan has contributed to the court as its staunch supporter and has actively engaged in the endeavor of strengthening the court. Despite the massive constraints put upon us by the pandemic, the court has tirelessly carried out its mandate. In this regard, I'd like to express Japan's sincere appreciation to all the officials of the court for their hard work to maintain the court's activity. Madam President, to maintain and reinforce the vital role of the court, we must achieve ongoing comprehensive reform. Last year, we decided to establish the review mechanism and began considering recommendations presented by the independent experts. I would like to emphasize that the steady implementation following substantive consideration is a matter of paramount importance, and throughout the whole process, we should bear in mind what we want to fulfill. Here, let me highlight two goals. First, we would like to see the court producing tangible outcomes. Japan believes that this requires appropriate selection of issues based on detailed assessment, proper priorities for situations and cases, and expedited judicial proceedings. Delivering results brings justice to the victims, helping the court win the enhanced confidence of the international community. Second, we would like to see the court with sound governance. The ICC is an international organization as well as an independent judicial body. It is therefore the states parties' responsibility to remain engaged in strengthening its governance. To this end, Japan has called for the adoption of a rotation policy for the ICC staff as a measure to address the issue of staff mobility. Japan hopes that the court carries out substantive consideration on the adoption of the policy with priority and starts discussion with state parties. To sustain sound governance, it is also important to step up our efforts to improve the geographical representation and gender balance within the court. Japan counts on court's continuous commitment to better represent the diversity of the international community. Madam President, while efficient use of the resources needs to be enhanced, Sustainable activities of the court cannot be achieved without stable financial resources. As has been pointed out by many state parties, the status of arrears and corresponding liquidity issues are extremely serious. Japan is concerned that court will fail to sustain its activities if this problem remains unsolved. We cannot afford further delay in discussing practical solutions. Madam President, the promotion of universality is key to the further development of the court in the fight against impunity. The court, states parties, and civil society have been working hard to deliver on universal membership. But it also holds true that some states hesitate to join the Roma Statute. In order to increase membership, it is indispensable to reach out to such states and gain their understanding and trust. With non-state parties, we should strive to forge a cooperative relationship based on dialogue and mutual respect. The court must also ensure to carry on its activities pursuant to the principle of complementarity with the aim of gaining credibility for the court. In this respect, Japan commends Prosecutor Khan for adopting a more balanced approach in addressing issues where interests of non-state parties are at stake. It is our hope that incorporating such an approach into the court's activities will help the court move closer to universal membership. Madam President, last but not least, let me reaffirm Japan's continuous commitment to the work of the Trust Fund for Victims. Following previous years, I am pleased to announce on this occasion that Japan will make an additional contribution to the Trust Fund, earmarked for supporting the victims of sexual and gender-based violence. Over the next 2 years, Japan will serve as a member of the Bureau. As a Bureau member, Japan will spare no effort in taking an active part in the reform, in close cooperation with the court, other states parties, and civil society. Thank you.
Thank you for your statement. And I now give the floor to His Excellency, Mr. Liare Friis Madsen, Ambassador of Denmark to the Netherlands. Ambassador, you have the floor.
Madam Vice President, distinguished delegates, it is an honor to address this 20th Assembly of State Parties on behalf of Denmark. Denmark aligns itself fully with the statement delivered by the European Union, but I will highlight a couple of points of particular importance to my delegation. I will like to congratulate the President of this Assembly on her election. I also wish to congratulate the new President of the Court, the new prosecutor, and the new judges on the important work they have already carried out since their appointment. The Court has been through a turbulent period over the last few years. The ebbs and flows of the international affairs also has some implications for the Court, even more so as activities and the caseload of the Court expands. Denmark has stood and will stand firmly by the Court in defending it against external pressures and political opposition. Together, the Court and the state parties have until now been able to successfully navigate the stormy waters, and I have no doubt that we will continue to do so. Madam Vice President, allow me to use this opportunity to warmly welcome the renewed engagement of the United States with this Court. While we still do not see eye to eye on everything, we look forward to continuing our dialogue and stress that we should address our differences in a constructive and collaborative manner. We welcome the increasing activities of the Court and recognize that 2022 will be a peak in terms of judicial activity. This is a positive development in the fight against impunity. We also understand that this will require more resources, and Denmark is ready to provide for the needs of the court. Chronic underfinancing of the budget, arrears and late payments is a challenge in this respect, and one we must pay more attention to going forward. Madam Vice President, it has been said that reform is a state of mind, and I subscribe to this view. The state party-driven review process is of utmost importance to my delegation. This is how we ensure that the court remains fit for purpose, efficient and effective. High-impact investigations and prosecutions, a lean judicial process, and above all, a well-managed and unified organization will cement the relevance of the court as our bulwark against impunity. We have made progress already based on the report of experts, and we welcome the many positive updates from the leadership of the court. We sense a strong will to improve, as set out in the response of the court to the IER report. I also wish to express our gratitude to the review mechanism for delivering results in this complex and demanding process. But, Madam Vice President, this is not a time to lean back and feel a sense of mission accomplished. We are only at the beginning of the process, and there is an ever-present risk of losing momentum and getting tangled up in red tape on all sides. The Assembly, as the court's oversight body, has a responsibility to ensure progress and support the court in implementing changes across the board, as well as doing its own part without undue delay. The court must keep the state parties informed and involved with full respect, of course, for its independence. The court's leadership has announced a range of new strategies, policies, and other measures as a consequence of the review, and this is very positive. However, as it is said, culture eats strategy for breakfast. The court must focus in particular on issues such as working culture and environment, sound and progressive human resource practices, promoting staff well-being and productivity, and unity of purpose across the organization and its governance. This must be a joint effort between management and staff, and between state parties and the court. Together, we must put action behind words. Strategies and policies cannot stand alone. Madam Vice President, let me conclude by renewing our commitment and support to the court and the Rome Statute system. The creation of the court was a momentous historical breakthrough, and we owe it to the victims, past, present, and future, to preserve this breakthrough and maximize its impact. This is why we're here today. I thank you, Madam Vice President.
Thank you for your statement, Excellency. I now give the floor to Her Excellency Ms. Eniola Olaitan Ajayi, the Ambassador of Nigeria to the Netherlands. You have the floor, ma'am.
Thank you, Madam Vice President, Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. On account of the fact that my delegation is taking the floor for the first time after the election of the presidency of the Assembly and the presidency of the court, let me, on behalf of His Excellency President Muhammadu Buhari, the government and good people of Nigeria, congratulate you and other members of the Bureau for your election and the mandate to direct the affairs of this year's session. Similarly, we congratulate the new prosecutor, Mr. Karim Khan, on his election and wish him great success in his assignment. We recognize the contribution of past President of the Court, Judge Chile Osuji, and former prosecutor, Mrs. Fatou Bensouda. You can be rest assured of Nigeria's unwavering support for the court. We commend the leadership of the Assembly for its resilience in piloting the affairs of the court, especially this 20th session, despite the challenges posed by COVID-19 pandemic. The current situation only shows how adaptive we should be to new realities. We recognize the fact that the pandemic has slowed down the progress recorded in reaching out to those aspiring for justice due to restrictive health and travel protocols. Madam Vice President, Nigeria is still under the scourge of terrorism with its devastating effects on the civilian population, livelihoods, and our economy. Officers and men of our security forces have paid and are still paying supreme sacrifices in this fight due to its difficult nature. State parties that have experienced or are still experiencing attacks from the terrorist groups will agree with me that Nigeria is indeed engaged in a difficult battle. It is for this reason that my delegation is calling on relevant stakeholders to support state parties that are committed to protecting the rights of law-abiding citizens against the attacks of faceless terrorists. Regarding the 2020 report of the prosecutor as it affects the 10 potential cases against Nigeria, the country experienced reporting setback due to challenges posed by COVID-19 pandemic, other security challenges that are even threatening the corporate existence of the country. These serious security threats are posed by Boko Haram terrorists, the secessionist agitators such as Odua Republic, indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, herdsmen, bandits, amongst others. Notwithstanding these challenges, Nigeria is still working to address the report of the prosecutor as they affect the country. Madam Vice President, within this period, the Complex Case Work Group was created within the Federal Ministry of Justice in response to the 10 potential cases against Nigeria. Nigeria is working assiduously to create an electronic case file and evidence database to serve as a repository for terrorism file and corresponding judgment thereof. The electronic case file database is helping Nigerian prosecutors to build better cases against alleged Boko Haram suspects and to better address the potential ICC criminality. This year, the Nigerian military appointed 21 investigators and prosecutors from the 3 security services to be part of the proposed serious crime response team to address alleged serious human rights violations and other crimes committed by the Nigerian armed forces. Their training is still ongoing at the moment. Presently, we have obtained certified true reports of copies of records, proceedings, charge sheets, and judgments in notable Boko Haram cases, and they are ready to be delivered to the ICC. Moreover, plan is underway to resuscitate and reinvigorate the Kanji trials as soon as possible. Thus, Nigeria will continue to cooperate and engage with the ICC to finalize those cases. Finally, on this point, the Honorable Attorney General of the Federation, Minister of Justice, has taken it upon himself to work directly with members of the National Assembly to ensure domestication of the Rome Statute crimes. We wish to reiterate the need to create a very conducive environment that will allow the court to deliver on its mandate. As expectations of state parties are very high, especially on the office of the prosecutor, Nigeria believes in creating a conducive environment that involves provision of adequate funds to enable the court carry out its obligations in an effective and efficient manner. Against this background, the budgetary request of the court must be viewed objectively as a major tool for the court to function effectively. As this assembly prepares to elect deputy prosecutors, my delegation reiterates the need to conduct an election that is transparent and all-inclusive, in a manner that only best candidates will be elected to support the prosecutor in implementing his vision. In closing, we would like this assembly to assure this assembly that Nigeria has consistently demonstrated strong political will to fulfill its international obligations through the domestication of relevant international instruments. Therefore, we would like to reaffirm our unalloyed commitment and cooperation to the International Criminal Court. I thank you all for your kind attention.
Thank you for your statement, Excellency. And I now give the floor to His Excellency, Mr. Brandon Rogers, Ambassador Designate of Ireland to the Netherlands. You have the floor.
Madam President, Ireland associates itself with the statement made earlier on behalf of the European Union and its member states. At the outset, I wish to express my gratitude to you, Madam President, and to the members of the Bureau for your dedicated work throughout the year, as well as for your efforts in preparing this Assembly of States Parties. A special thanks must also be given to the Secretariat of the ASP, who've negotiated for a second year in a row the challenges and restrictions arising out of the COVID-19 pandemic in order to ensure that this really important coming together of supporters of international criminal justice can proceed. Finally, I congratulate Prosecutor Karine Khan and the judges elected at the last session of this Assembly on taking up their roles, and the newly elected members of the Advisory Committee on Nominations and the Board of Directors of the Trust Fund for Victims. Madam President, next year the International Criminal Court will mark 20 years since it first opened its doors. Such a milestone prompts us to take stock of how far the ICC has progressed its vital mandate to end impunity and ensure justice for the victims of atrocity crimes. While the court has undoubtedly experienced the challenges and growing pains that inevitably arise as part of building an institution with such lofty goals, the ICC has matured into the cornerstone of the international justice system and is an integral part of the rules-based international order. The number of significant judicial developments this year is testament to this. We've seen the trial chamber deliver one judgment, and a further 2 judgments have been handed down by the appeals chamber. There have also been 3 proceedings for confirmation of charges, as well as an important decision on the court's jurisdiction. Substantial progress has also been made concerning preliminary examinations and investigations by the Office of the Prosecutor. This has been achieved alongside the publication of 2 important policy papers on cultural heritage and situation completion. We welcome the light that such policies shed on the work of the prosecutor and highlight the importance of ensuring transparency in his office's decision-making process. Madam President, the achievement of the court throughout the last year could only have been obtained with the cooperation of states. The success of the court depends ultimately on this cooperation. As an ASP focal point for non-cooperation, Ireland calls on all states to cooperate fully and effectively with requests from the court. We express concern at the continued instances of non-cooperation and urge the execution of all outstanding arrest warrants. Madam President, we must also reflect on the challenges that the court and those of us who support it face. The past number of years have seen the resolve of the court and its supporters severely tested. It is a credit to the resilience of this institution that it has emerged from those threats in a position of strength. This is in no small part due to the public and vocal support of states parties and civil society. However, this support continues to be much needed. Despite some welcome developments in the past year, efforts to undermine the work of the ICC continue, especially from those who feel threatened by the court's vital mandate to end impunity. Ireland will continue to support the court in every way that we can, including during our current term on the Security Council, where accountability is one of Ireland's 3 core principles. We call on our fellow states parties to stand with us in this task. We as states parties owe it to victims to defend the work of the court, not just when it is politically convenient to do so, but in all circumstances where the court's independence and impartiality are threatened. Madam President, we are now in the midst of a review process that is aimed at further strengthening the ICC and the Rome Statute system. Ireland commends the court for the progress it has made on this task, in parallel with its heavy prosecutorial and judicial workload. We would like to acknowledge the work of the review mechanism and thank Ambassador Van de Issel of the Netherlands and Ambassador Imran Kanu of Sierra Leone for their continued dedication in overseeing the assessment of the wide-ranging recommendations of the independent experts' report. This review process offers an important opportunity to further improve the efficiency and effectiveness of the court in waging the fight against impunity. We must ensure that this review process does not become a box-ticking exercise, but delivers tangible results while respecting the independence of the court. Madam President, the international community was driven to establish the Rome Statute system by the countless cries for help of those who have suffered from the most truly shocking crimes. It is only right that the Rome Statute places the victim at the centre of its framework by promising effective reparative justice for victims, their families, and their communities. This is a principle that Ireland holds dear, and we believe that the work of the Trust Fund for Victims is indispensable in this endeavour. Ireland is proud to actively support the work of the Trust Fund. We have increased our regular voluntary contributions to the Trust Fund this year to €300,000 and encourage all states parties in a position to do so to consider contributing. We are also delighted to have nominated Ambassador Kevin Kelly for appointment to the Board of Directors, and we congratulate him on his appointment, confident in the knowledge that his experience in promoting the rights of victims will be a considerable asset to the Board. Madam President, all victims of atrocity crimes should be entitled to justice, no matter where in the world they are, or who are the perpetrators. While the responsibility of ensuring accountability falls in the first instance on states themselves, there are, disappointingly, many instances where authorities are unwilling or unable to tackle impunity. That is why we need a court of last resort, and why Ireland supports the universality of the Rome Statute. We encourage those states that have not done so to become states parties to the ICC. We further urge all states parties to ensure timely payment of annual contributions to the ICC and, where necessary, to clear any outstanding arrears. This is particularly important to ensure that the ICC can continue its critical work and achieve justice for all victims. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you for your statement. I now give the floor to His Excellency, Mr. Alfonso Lopez, Prosecutor General of Timor-Leste. Excellency, you have the floor.
Thanks. Madam President, distinguished delegates, it is a great privilege and honor for me to represent the Democratic Republic of Timor-Leste to address the 20th session of the Assembly of State Parties to the Rome Statute. I would like to take this opportunity to express our appreciation for the work done by the judges, prosecutors, and the Secretariat of the International Criminal Court, despite obstacles, and to highlight the important work done by the independent expert. The work done by everyone during the many years of the course extends, contribute to strengthening in the importance and independence and for this region. Will take the opportunity on behalf of Timor-Leste to welcome all these judicial actors with enthusiasm for their work. We would also like to take this opportunity to express to all the delegates present here, wishing for a fruitful work week. Madam President, one of the key values of the International Criminal Court is to ensure world peace and well-being and guarantees justice of the victims of the most serious crime against humanity, prevent impunity of the criminals. However, it also has the virtue of supporting the uphold of national legislation aimed at combating the most serious crime against human rights. Timor-Leste understands these virtues, and because of the historical circumstances in which it had to restore to its independence after a long period of occupation. It has therefore in the beginning adhered the Rome Statute. In this regard, in our penal code, the crimes of genocide, crime against humanity and war crimes are criminal acts, and therefore the criminal proceeding and the prosecution of these crimes are imprescriptible. We have a legal institutional framework that supports international criminal justice cooperation. The Prosecutor General's Office, through the Office of the International Judicial Cooperation, which is the central authority, has the role to facilitate and strengthen international judicial cooperation in the fight against crime, and in particular the most serious crime. Madam President, although still a relatively new country, Timor-Leste has made an effort to build a democratic rule of law based on the respect of the dignity of human person and their state respect the Constitution and the laws. The new prosecutors will be elected at this session. Therefore, we would like to wish them every success it advances. I would like to conclude by reaffirming Timor-Leste unwavering commitment to continue to be part to the Rome Statutes and to contributing to maintaining the independence of International Criminal Court and to provide the necessary collaboration for the performance of the function with the assurance that is the way it will contribute to the construction of global justice system based on respect of human rights. Thank you, Madam President.
I thank you for your statement, Excellency, and I now give the floor to His Excellency, Mr. Jose Antonio Zabalgoitia Trejo, Ambassador of Mexico to the Netherlands. Excellency, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam Vice President, Ambassador Casanova, distinguished judges and officials of the International Criminal Court, distinguished delegates, representatives of civil society. Mexico is appreciative of the commitments of the bodies of the ICC vis-a-vis the values set forth in the Rome Statute. We're grateful for its hard work, dedication, and commitment in discharging its mandate. My delegation also would like to show its appreciation for the court's ability to keep the court operating faced with the difficulties brought by the COVID-19 pandemic, but also by the attacks that were leveled against our institution. 2021 was a year of change and renewal within the court, and for this, Mexico wishes to extend a warm welcome to the 6 new judges who have joined the court, as well as our prosecutor, Karim Khan, Judge Piotr Hofmansky, and Ambassador Silvia Fernandez, who have all taken on new functions in the intervening period. Mexico appreciates the professionalism and dedication of Registrar Peter Lewis in order to ensure continuity of operations of the court under circumstances that required great experience and skill. This year, states parties, the court, and civil society established new links with a view to strengthening our institution, which is vital for international justice and coexistence. We've exchanged viewpoints, we've brought our capacities together in the process of reviewing the Rome Statute in the court. Our shared objective has been to improve its structure and functioning in order to enhance its effectiveness, its efficiency, and its transparency. Mexico believes that it is important to carry out a thoroughgoing reform, and that is why in 2021 our country was an active participant in the court's review mechanism. We were actively involved in the classification of the recommendations, the development of the comprehensive action plan, and the evaluation of the various recommendations coming out of the group of independent experts. Our participation was expressed through the various working groups of the Bureau and facilitation process, including the working group on amendments that Mexico is honored to chair. In this latter group, we would like to point to all the progress that's been made when it comes to strengthening the Rome Statute and the rules of procedure and proof. On the basis of the foregoing, Mexico remains convinced that we are at a historic juncture, a moment when we can take the ICC forward into future decades. Thanks to the IER, the states parties and the bodies of the court now have the proper diagnosis in order to strengthen the court's actions. And it's in our hands, the states parties, to give the ICC the support it needs and the financial resources that are required in order to make this reform a reality. We shouldn't, of course, do so by pretending to ignore the financial difficulties that many countries around the world are facing right now. Mexico would like to reiterate its trust and full support to Prosecutor Khan, as well as his plans to restructure the OTP. We firmly believe that the prosecutor, whose vast experience and capacity will make it possible for us to reorganize the office, making sure that we can offer justice to victims and to the communities that have been affected by the most heinous crimes that are proscribed in the Rome Statute. 2022 will be a year in which we'll continue working on evaluating the recommendations coming from the IER in a transparent manner. The process will be inclusive. We'll be trying to build consensus and respect judicial and procedural independence at all times. We shall also continue to militate so that the ICC can be a place where we create a working climate of respect. We would also request that we always ensure gender parity, equitable geographical representation, and the full and balanced representation of the main legal systems around the world. Mexico's unwavering commitment to international criminal justice is manifest in our full cooperation with the ICC. We have already introduced into domestic legislation the amendments that were adopted at the Kampala conference in 2016 and at the 2017 ASP. And on the last 9th of September, the Chamber of Senators of our government adopted these amendments, and very shortly we'll be depositing our ratification instrument. Madam Vice President, distinguished delegates, we shouldn't overlook the fact that this is a court of last resort. It's a tool that was developed by the international community in order to judge crimes of genocide, of crimes against humanity, war crimes, and aggression. However, the main obligation is to address these crimes and to put an end to impunity is the responsibility of the states. The agreements that we've recently reached with the governments of Colombia and Venezuela actually underscore the complementary nature of the Rome Statute and the role the court plays therein. We would call on states parties to cooperate more fully with the court in order to make it possible for the Rome Statute to be enforced in its entirety. This would include the execution of outstanding arrest warrants. We would also invite those states that haven't done so yet to ratify or to adhere to the Rome Statute in order to make the system truly universal. This is a very important step forward when it comes to investigating and prosecuting crimes that are proscribed by the statute, wherever they may occur. One thing is sure, at this 20th session, we are at a critical juncture. We have it in our hands to strengthen the ICC, making it sure that it is a standing, independent, and complementary court of last resort. The most atrocious crimes that are condemned by the Rome Statute should not go unpunished. Victims and communities affected by them should have the certainty that the international community will support them and compensate them, and that those guilty will be judged with impartiality. The world needs an ICC that is solid, impartial, and independent, that reflects the international community's firm decision to put an end to impunity. Thank you, Madam Vice President. Thank you for giving Mexico the opportunity to make these points known.
Thank you very much, Excellency, for your statement. And I now give the floor to Her Excellency Ms. Carmen Maria Gallardo, Ambassador of El Salvador to the Netherlands. Excellency, you have the floor. Señora Vicepresidenta.
Madam Vice President, the delegation of El Salvador would like to reiterate to Madam Silvia Fernandez Mendez, President of the 20th Assembly of States Parties, all of our congratulations, and the same goes to the Vice Presidents and members of the Bureau. And I should also like to take this opportunity to extend very special congratulations and greetings to the new prosecutor Karim Khan, and we reiterate our support to him. We reaffirm our commitment to the ICC, and yet we encourage all to do their part to ensure the full adhesion to the Rome Statute so that it can reach universality. As we know, universal ratification of the statute, the Rome Statute, is going to be necessary if we're going to prevent atrocities and end impunity. We unfortunately have observed that the exercise of the principle of complementarity in national criminal jurisdictions helps to reduce the scope for impunity, but more needs to be done. The court serves as the competent international body for promoting the respect of international criminal law, international humanitarian law, human rights, contributing in this way to ensuring the primacy of the rule of law. And yet we need to also remember the fundamental role that it plays in consolidating and maintaining peace and security around the world, as one of the basic principles of the UN Charter. And that is why we are calling for ever closer cooperation between the UN and this ICC. We feel that the time is ripe to reaffirm our condemnation of the crimes against humanity, war crimes, genocide and aggression, which violate the very essence of human dignity and the basic principles of international law and human rights. We reiterated our commitment recently to the court when we had the visit of a Vice President, Dr. Felix Oloyo, in the ICC, which enabled El Salvador to reiterate its commitment to the court. Madam Vice President, we do appreciate the trust that has been placed in El Salvador when it comes to facilitating the legal assistance work that is being done, so as to further strengthen the principles of the policy of legal aid and making it accessible, efficient, sustainable, and credible. We think that this facilitation work falls within the spirit of the recommendations from the IER, so as to enable the court to complete the reform of the legal aid policy. And in this regard, we have tabled our report thereupon to this Assembly. El Salvador would also like to echo other member states that have spoken in recognizing the excellent results achieved over the last difficult months in the ICC, despite the challenges of COVID-19. In this regard, we could mention the processes that led to the election of the 6 new judges, the new presidency, and the new prosecutor. All of this means that we are pleased to see that there is a renewal in the leadership of the court. And we remain convinced that the exercise of their functions, of these new court leaders, is going to ensure that the criteria of impartiality and independence will be further maintained. My delegation has taken due note with interest of the reports presented to the states parties during this conference. And in particular, El Salvador would like to take the time to appreciate the work that's been done to strengthen the court in terms of governance and institutional structure through the revision mechanism of the court and the Rome Statute system. This process, too, falls within the framework of the recommendations of the IER, which will enable states parties to further our analysis in a more comprehensive manner. We think that it is clear that what we need is an ICC that is able to demonstrate gender balance, linguistic balance in its activities, and also the diversity of the geographical representation and legal system representation. My delegation interprets this review mechanism as being one that will enable the court to seek greater efficiencies in the use of its resources and align its strategies with its mandate, with stronger structures, greater efficiency in the various different stages of the legal cases before it. And for this, we would like to extend an invitation to all states parties and involved stakeholders to take a constructive role in this important reform process. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Excellency, for your statement. I now give the floor to His Excellency Mr. Yeondo Jeong, Ambassador of Republic of Korea to the Netherlands. Excellency, you have the floor.
Madam Vice President, Excellencies and distinguished delegates, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to Madam President and the Vice Presidents, the Bureau, the working groups, and the Secretariats of the Assembly for your excellent preparations for this 20th session of the Assembly of State Parties, notwithstanding the challenges posed by COVID-19. My delegation also commends the joint efforts of the Presidency, the Chambers, the Office of Prosecutor, and the Registry to help end the impunity for perpetrators of the most serious crimes of concern to the international community. This year, despite the pandemic, the court has continued to carry out its mission and has made meaningful achievement in a number of cases and situations, such as its rulings in Untaganda and Ongwen cases. I'm confident that this session of the Assembly will be guided to a successful outcome under your exemplary leadership. Madam Vice President, my delegation welcomes the continued efforts of the state parties, the court, and other stakeholders to actively engage in assessing and implementing the recommendations of the independent expert review to strengthen the ICC and Rome Statute system. We would also like to take this opportunity to thank the review mechanism for the very intensive work undertaken so far and for always observing the principles of transparency and inclusivity in the exercise of its mandate within this state-driven process. We hope that discussions on how to implement the IER recommendations will be accelerated through the review mechanism in the new year. My delegation would like to confirm a strong commitment to continued and full engagement for the implementation of the IER recommendations. Madam Vice President, there have been significant systemic changes in the ICC leadership this past year. Madam President was appointed as President of the Assembly as the 19th session of the Assembly. 6 new judges were sworn in March, and Prosecutor Karim Khan took office in June. My delegation hopes that 2 highly qualified candidates with excellent moral character will be elected as deputy prosecutors during this assembly to successfully complete the change of leadership in the court. We are certain that the court will be strengthened in its efficiency and effectiveness under the new leadership. Madam Vice President, equitable geographical distribution benefits the court by ensuring a diversity of perspective which literally increases creativity in the work environment and externally remains crucial to address perception challenges and advance universality of Rome Statute. Noting that the ICC needs to be geographically balanced perspective in the recruitment of the ICC staff, the Republic of Korea recognizes the various actions taken by the registry to address this issue, such as using the online application platform and hosting the third Asia-Pacific Forum to introduce the ICC's activities to people in the region. However, we call upon the Court and Assembly to redouble their efforts to pay more attention to the issue of underrepresentation and to rectify geographical imbalance at the earliest possible time. Madam Vice President, the Republic of Korea believes that a wider participation of states in the Rome Statute will undoubtedly lead to stronger support for the court by reinforcing the independent system of international criminal justice to fight impunity and to deter the gravest crimes under international law. In this regard, through the Universality Working Group, the Republic of Korea, together with the Netherlands, has actively contributed to the efforts to promote, as far as possible, the universality and full implementation of the Rome Statute by reaching out to non-state parties and encouraging their ratification of Rome Statute. The Republic of Korea will continue to strengthen these efforts, particularly in the Asia-Pacific region. Madam Vice President, the Republic of Korea takes note of the Budget and Finance Committee's repeated concerns with liquidity issue, one of the greatest challenges the court is facing. In order for the court to fulfill its important mandate under the Rome Statute, we encourage all state parties to make timely payments of their assessed contributions. Madam Vice President, the Assembly marks a defining moment for the ICC. With the full support for the court by all state parties, the ICC will be able to carry out its important mandate of ensuring justice for victims of the most serious crimes. The Republic of Korea reaffirms its deep commitment to and staunch support for the activities of the ICC. I would like to bring my remarks to a close by once again expressing my sincere gratitude to you, Madam President and Vice President, for the preparation for this assembly. I look forward to meaningful and productive discussions on all these important matters. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Excellency, for your statement. And I now give the floor to His Excellency Mr. Hernán Salinas, Ambassador of Chile to the Netherlands. You have the floor, sir.
Señora Vicepresidenta.
Dear Vice President, distinguished delegates, we would like at the outset to recognize the work undertaken by the President of the ASP, Silvia Fernandez, to the Vice Presidents, to the members of the Bureau, and to the Secretariat of the Assembly, who have undertaken ceaseless work over the last year, which was a very complicated one, overcoming what we thought were going to be limitations posed by the pandemic. This assembly can count yet again on Chile's commitment to the ICC and its decisions. We shall continue contributing to the agreements that enable it to approve the 2022 budget, to elect the 2 deputy prosecutors, and on the 10th of March in 2021, 6 new judges were sworn in. We wish them every success in their duties. Madam Vice Chair, on the 6th of June of this year, there was a new prosecutor, Karim Khan, who took up functions at the court. We wish him a warm welcome, and we thank him for his new strategic plan for the OTP. We notice that there is emphasis on bolstering the principle of complementarity, improving the work culture and atmosphere, seeking efficiencies, making use of available resources, and streamlining of the pre-trial activities and investigations. We feel that the resources need to be given to the court so that judges can undertake their duties with complete independence. And Professor Khan has made statements in this regard. We particularly appreciate the interpretation of the prosecutor and the way that he has presented that to states parties, the way that he intends to reshuffle the OTP through the initial in the initial phase of his term of office with the work of the deputy prosecutors. We feel that all of this will be beneficial for the work of the ICC. It is important to support recommendation 161 of the IER, given with respect to the Assembly and states parties, so as to come up with a strategy that will enable the court to discharge its mandate and continue seeking efficiencies. The 6 candidates have academic and legal backgrounds of high caliber, and we wish that it is our wish that the appointed individuals will receive a broad consensus when it comes to those appointments. There has been also a lot of work done already on the review mechanism. The goals are clear: strengthen the court, streamline it, and remain true to the principles of the Rome Statute. And it is the registrar and the prosecutor who are in particular doing so much to ensure that this review mechanism will be a success. We have been fortunate to be able to constructively participate in many of the working groups and have been kept up to date with progress and challenges regarding the whole process. And we will be pleased to continue contributing as time goes forward. We are concerned that there is underrepresentation of a regional nature in the ICC staff. The GRULAC nations are underrepresented compared with other regional groups. Only 7.7% of the court staff comes from GRULAC nations. And when it comes to P5 posts, there are no LAC staff. This is a deficit which needs to be addressed urgently. The International Criminal Court needs to adequately reflect its various different legal mechanisms from around the world, cultures, and regions of its states parties. Madam Vice President, special mention needs to be made of the notion of universality and complementarity, which are key pillars of the relationship between states parties and the ICC. Universality, first, needs to be a shared goal. All member states need to share this goal. After we've had more than 2 years slip by without any new ratifications by member states, which we feel is of great concern. It's a time for us to redouble our efforts so that we can promote the universality of the Rome Statute. Complementarity now. This is a cornerstone of the court. If we are to preserve the integrity of the rule of law, the competence of the courts, and the court's organs' independence, it is vital that we bolster national capacity and complementarity as a tool so as to counter these crimes of great atrocity and end impunity. As has already been mentioned by Prosecutor Khan, The Hague needs to be a city of last resort, where the principle of complementarity can be applied. It's obviously preferable for trials to take place in the national jurisdiction, and this is of importance whenever it is possible. That is the preferred mechanism. And this needs to be understood by members that are and are not party to the statute. We personally are pleased to announce that we are fully up to date with our contributions, and we encourage other nations to do the same. We have done a lot to ensure that we can comply with our obligations, aware of the budgetary limitations and liquidity problems. This is a commitment that we have made, and it's important for all states parties to redouble our efforts to ensure that the court has the necessary financial wherewithal to discharge its mandate, particularly in this period. And finally, we should just like to underscore Chile's commitment to the court and the Rome Statute system. We call on all states parties to continue persevering so as to rise to the aspirations of the international community in addressing impunity and bringing succor to the victims. Thank you.
Thank you, Excellency, for your statement. I now give the floor to His Excellency Mr. Lawrence Lenayapa, Ambassador of Kenya to the Netherlands. Excellency, you have the floor.
Madam President, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the Republic of Kenya lauds the leadership of Ms. Sylvia Fernandez, President of the Assembly, the Bureau, the Secretariat, and all who have worked tirelessly amidst the continuing COVID-19 pandemic to ensure the Assembly continue to fulfill its role of providing management oversight regarding the administration of the court. Kenya further congratulates new prosecutor of the court, Karim Khan. We are confident that the next 9 years of the leadership of the Office of the Prosecutor will witness more consistent prosecutorial policy that will lead confidence to all, regardless the fairness, probity, and integrity of the office, and by extension of the court. The prosecutor's statement to the Assembly evincing a progressive approach to preliminary prosecution and providing assurance that all prosecutorial efforts will be guided by evidentiary content and strength rather than political consideration. Fortifies our confidence. Further, we have taken note of the prosecutor's commitment to complementary and regional cooperation, which is, in our view, will aid the strengthening the legitimacy and ownership of the court. Madam President, Excellencies, the confidence of the parties and that converged at the City of Rome 23 years ago and adopted the Rome Statute was driven by the firm belief that an international court was necessary to halt mass atrocities and bring accountability to perpetrators of the worst systemic crimes known to man. The August Assembly, an incarnation of the Rome Statute, now ratified by 193 state parties, here represented while confronted by completely different circumstances, must always keep this imperative alive, lest we fall victim of bureaucratic lethargy, institution capture, and outright sabotage by those determined to neuter the effectiveness of this important mechanism and international peace and security. The Assembly of State Parties is the statutory framework for all stakeholders to the Rome system, state parties, civil societies, victims groups, and court officials to safeguard the integrity of the court's purpose and protect the objectives of the statute. It provides a reflective and deliberate space to cause, correct, and build a more perfect mechanism that perforce deter the occurrence of atrocities while providing remedy where such crimes are already committed. Madam President, the review of the International Criminal Court and the Rome Statute System 2020 marked a significant milestone in the efforts of state parties towards the more robust ICC system. The review sought to strengthen transparency and fairness by the organs of the court. The report of the independent review contains numerous recommendations, both short and long term, with varying degrees of complexity, attendant risk, and cost and urgency of implementation. Kenya supports the comprehensive approach to resolving some of the structural and operational challenges faced by international court system. The recommendation of the governance of the prosecutor process, as well as efficiency and protection of law trial rights made by the review team, instructs Kenya's position in pursuing amendments to certain provisions of the Rome Statute. Kenya's proposal to amend Article 63 to allow for acquittal of accused person from continuous physical presence at trial was present and remains relevant. The COVID pandemic that continues to ravage our world has vindicated Kenya's position as it has demonstrated that the use of technology can be leveraged upon to facilitate independent attendance of accused persons at trial without the need of physical presence. As such, it is Kenya's position that the provision on the use of technology should further be expressly entrenched in the Roman Statute. Madam Chair, the integrity and competence of persons who serve as judges of the International Criminal Court cannot be gainsaid. The role of Advisory Committee on nomination of judges is central to this fair and recent selection process. Kenya nominated Ms. Lucy Kambuni, Senior Counsel, for election as a member of the Advisory Committee on nomination of judges. aware of Advocate Kambuni's years of criminal justice in Kenya, we are confident that she will lend important contribution to this committee. Kenya takes this opportunity to also congratulate the elected members of the Board of Directors of the Trust Fund of Victims and assures the board of its cooperation. Madam President, in carrying out its mandate, the court always be alive to the objective of state parties as expressed in preamble of Rome Statute, criminal jurisdiction, first and foremost, the duty of every state. The court does not have the capacity to investigate and prosecute cases in the many territories where atrocity crimes are being perpetuated. It is therefore imperative that state parties, the court, and stakeholders collaborate in strengthening national and regional institutions to enable the deal with international crimes to ensure that there is no impunity gap. Kenya has made several strides in building its capacity to investigate and prosecute international crimes, and therefore enhance cooperation with other state parties and foreign entities through the enactment of legislation to facilitate investigation and prosecution of international crimes, witness protection, mutual legal assistance, and recovery of assets. Madam President, Kenya continues to demonstrate its cooperation with the court in various spheres. The Kenya Witness Protection Agency has, for instance, ensured cooperation in carrying out measures aimed at facilitating the protection of witnesses and maintaining ongoing communication with regard to implementation of protection measures. In accordance with the domestic law and international obligation as a state party, the Witness Protection Amendment Act number 45 of 2016 made provision for reciprocal witness protection arrangements with foreign countries. The agency is developing the Witness Protection Reciprocal Protection Arrangements, Regulation 2021 on admission of international witness, admissibility assessment of an international relocated witnesses, and international relocation to give full effect to Part 3 of Witness Protection Act. Kenya today commits that the agency will continue to cooperate and promote the rule of law by playing its critical role in providing the necessary protection to witnesses at the national and international level. Madam President, accountability is key for the legitimacy and credibility of an institution. Kenya recognizes and respects the independence of the judiciary and the office of the prosecutor. However, no person, organ, or institution is above reproach. Allegations made against the conduct of any current or former elected official or staff member must be investigated and the result of the investigation published in a timely manner. Kenya is committed that the annual report of the head of the independent oversight mechanism focuses only on issues of internal policy. A faithful understanding of the oversight mandate of the IOM suggests that its role is broader and should extend to redress for abuse of process by any of the organs of the court in the discharge of mandate. Kenya urges that this expansive approach towards oversight becomes the lodestar to IOM operations. Madam President, Kenya recalls that the 19th session, the Assembly requested the court to present a sustainable budget proposal for its 2022 program, and notes with disappointment the 9.5% increase in the requested proposed budget. Kenya wishes to emphasize that the court should build synergies between the organs of the court, strengthen cooperation with the state parties and civil society organizations, strengthening its working method and strive to fulfill its mandate with the reassurance provided by state parties. Madam President, in conclusion, Kenya urges state parties to remain vigilant in the search for equitable framework for the realization of international criminal justice for all. Thank you.
Excellency, I thank you for your statement. And now I give the floor to His Excellency, Mr. Francis Dante Kotia, Ambassador of Ghana to the Netherlands. You have the floor, sir.
Madam Vice President, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, let me begin by expressing my congratulations to Madam President and other members of the Bureau on your election to guide the proceedings of the 20th session of the Assembly of States Parties. I'm confident that you will diligently steer the affairs of this session to a successful end and ably execute your mandate for the next 3 years. I assure you of the full support of my delegation for a successful conference and your tenure. My appreciation also goes to the President of the Court, Judge Piotr Hofmanski, as well as to the Secretariat for the excellent work they have done in the management of the affairs of the Court over the past year, despite the challenges of the COVID-19 pandemic. My appreciation and congratulations also goes to the 6 newly elected judges, the prosecutor, and the yet-to-be-elected deputy prosecutors. Madam President, I would also like to put on record or acknowledge the contribution of 2 important personalities to the development of this court, and that is the former President of the Court, Judge Shile Ebo Isuji, and former prosecutor, Madam Fatou Bensouda. They worked with admiration and contributed to the development of this court, and I wish to appreciate them. Madam President, the preamble to the Rome Statute is a call to action to the international community to end impunity for the perpetrators of heinous crimes of concern to humanity. Ghana's abiding commitment to the preamble, the values of the court, and the principles of international law find ample expression not only in the fact of its active engagement in the affairs of the court, but also the historical fact that Ghana signed and ratified the Rome Statute in July 1998 and in December 1999, respectively, making Ghana the 2nd country in sub-Saharan Africa and the 6th in the world to accede to the statute. Ghana will continue to work in concert with the international community to ensure the effective functioning of the court for the benefit of humanity. It is worth noting that since its inception, the court has helped to deliver justice to victims around the world and to deter the grievous atrocity crimes, thereby promoting the norms of international criminal justice. While these are commendable, it must still be stressed that the court is faced with challenges as international peace and security continue to be threatened by reported incidents of armed conflicts around the world with their attendant violations that may amount to crimes under the Rome Statute. As we encounter these new challenges, what is required more than ever is for states parties and relevant stakeholders to continue to invest their efforts to enhance the efficiency and effectiveness of the court to better fulfill its mandate and ensure greater accountability for atrocity crimes. Madam Vice President, Ghana continues to call for dialogue and engagement in addressing the challenges confronting the court, and particularly the strengthening of relations between the court and African states. To this end, we commend the court, the Assembly, and its working groups for undertaking activities towards strengthening cooperation with states parties. Additionally, we must continue to make efforts to advance the implementation of the complementarity-related capacity-building activities to assist national jurisdictions to be able to deal with the most serious crimes of concern to the international community. That will certainly decrease the workload of the court and reduce the financial burden associated with such workload. Ghana welcomes the opening of preliminary examinations as well as investigations into several situations outside the African continent. This development will help to dispel the perception and the notion that the court unduly concentrates on Africa. Madam Vice President, Ghana welcomes the ongoing review process of the ICC and the Rome Statute system, focusing on the clusters of issues of governance, judiciary, as well as investigations and prosecutions as very crucial and timely developments. My delegation commends the group of independent experts for their untiring efforts and the timely submission of their comprehensive report. It is our hope that all stakeholders will keep up the momentum for effective implementation of the recommendations to ensure that the review process is successful in enhancing performance of the court and the Rome Statute system. Ghana welcomes the decision by the government of the United States of America in April 2021 to revoke the Executive Order 13928 and to lift economic sanctions and visa restrictions imposed on the court's high-ranking officials. Ghana views this development as a new window of opportunity for mutual and constructive engagement between the court and the USA, not only to help fulfill the mandate of the ICC as the only permanent international criminal tribunal for punishing and deterring atrocity crimes, but also to serve the cause of the rule of law and international criminal justice. Madam President, we also like to continue to underscore the vital importance of the universality principle of the court and wish to use this platform to reiterate the call for the universal ratification of the Rome Statute by all states such that the jurisdiction of the ICC can apply to international crimes allegedly committed by any person at any place. This makes education and sensitization about the Rome Statute and the ICC imperative for a better appreciation of the mandate and responsibilities of the court. It is in this regard that I wish to acknowledge the support of the International Criminal Court in the activities of the Africa Center of International Criminal Justice, ACICJ, at the Gimpa Law School in Ghana. The center was established in May 2017 and is dedicated to the promotion of international criminal law and justice in the world, and in Africa in particular, through research, capacity building, seminars, and advocacy. The center has already proven its worth as it has emerged as a preeminent center on legal education and training in the field of international criminal justice. I encourage greater collaboration between the ICC and the ICICJ in the dissemination of information about the court at the national, regional, and sub-regional levels to advance the universal ratification of the Rome Statute. This is in line with a plan of action of the Assembly of States Parties for achieving universality and full implementation of the Rome Statute of the Criminal Court. Madam President, my delegation also wishes to underline the importance of ensuring fairness and equity in the recruitment of staff of the court and in representation of the various regional groups, as well as gender mainstreaming in all activities of the court. This will no doubt give equal opportunity to nationals of all states parties to place their varied experiences and perspectives at the disposal of the court to enhance institutional efficiency and ensure impartiality in the workings of the court. In conclusion, Madam Vice President, permit me to express my delegation's appreciation to the government and peoples of the Royal Kingdom of the Netherlands for their continued support to the court as host country and for the warm hospitality extended to all states parties. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much for your statement, Excellency. I now give the floor to Ms. Silke Narvaez First Secretary of the Embassy of Paraguay. You have the floor, ma'am.
Madam Vice President of the Assembly of States Parties to the Rome Statute, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, it is my honor to speak on behalf of the Republic of Paraguay at this assembly that has gathered together today, despite the pandemic, in order to kick off the proceedings of the 20th Assembly of the ASP. Here we will be addressing matters of great importance before the Court and the Assembly. Let me take this opportunity to wish everybody a very productive meeting. Firstly, I would like to congratulate the President on her election to the presidency for all of the work she's done so far. My delegation is willing to stand by her and to engage in dialogue with her. It's been a very complex year because we've all been contending with the pandemic. We've learned how to work in new ways and in ways that are different from the past. This is why we appreciate all the more all of the efforts that have been deployed to make it possible for us to gather here physically in the city of The Hague. I would also like to commend the election of the President of the Court, the Vice Presidents, and the new 6 judges. I wish them all every success in the discharge of their duties. In a similar vein, I would like to extend congratulations to the prosecutor and also wish all the new deputy prosecutors every success. We shall be electing them before the end of this assembly. But I would like to call on states parties to make sure that all of us elect people on the basis of merit and experience. This is the best way to continue to responding to the challenges that the court is facing. I would also like to point out that Paraguay supports and is grateful to the work that has been done by the review mechanism. This will strengthen the court and improve the way in which the Rome Statute system as a whole functions. Let me just stress that we have been facing challenging times because of the public health concerns. All states have been affected by this. Paraguay has done everything it can to make sure that we can pay in a timely fashion what we owe the court. In this connection, we would like to call on all states to do the same thing. We would call on the Assembly to adopt a fair and balanced budget for the upcoming period. Madam Vice President, Paraguay would like to reiterate its confidence in this system established by the international community in its efforts to strengthen international justice. The existence of the ICC is a major milestone in our collective efforts to put an end to impunity for the most heinous crimes and to guarantee justice and compensation to victims of these international crimes within the framework of international justice. The states parties' commitment to the Rome Statute and to the court is what has gathered us here together. And I would like to take this opportunity to express my country's unwavering support to the International Criminal Court and its trust in its full independence and judicial impartiality. This can be seen in the fact that Paraguay ratified the convention 20 years ago and subsequently adopted the Kampala amendments. Let me just say once again that for Paraguay, multilateralism is the most effective instrument to face the challenges through international justice and the system established by the Rome Statute. This is the best way to satisfy the aspirations of the international community to vanquish impunity and to offer assistance and compensation to the victims. Paraguay would also call for the consolidation of a constructive dialogue with non-governmental organizations and civil society. We believe that by doing so, we will further strengthen international justice and make ever more progress towards achieving the aims set forth in the Rome Statute. Thank you very much.
I thank you for your statement. I now give the floor to Her Excellency Ms. Laura Dupuy Lacerre, Ambassador of Uruguay to the Netherlands. Ma'am, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam Vice President of the Assembly, Caterina Seguentsova. To the authorities of the Court, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, representatives of civil society. Uruguay would once again like to go on record in stating its full commitment to the International Criminal Court in its fight against impunity for those who are guilty of the most serious international crimes and in its work of preventing crimes. This is why we adopted in 2006 Law 18,026, which is a comprehensive piece of legislation because it carries on board international legal obligations, international humanitarian law, and human rights laws when it comes to classifying certain international crimes. This was done jointly with the support from the United Nations and the ICRC. Our authorities that are entrusted with cooperation with the court are set forth in this law. It also established a nationwide participatory process to nominate candidates for judgeships or prosecutors. We've also participated in the facilitation on complementarity, focusing on section gender-based violence. We've shared our experiences with the prosecutor's office in our country, focusing on prejudices, stereotypes, unconscious biases, etc., which makes it very important in making sure that gender perspectives are mainstreamed at every step of investigations and prosecution. In the same spirit, Uruguay has been actively involved in strengthening the Rome system and making it more universal. Starting in 2021, we started working with the study group on governance, working jointly with the co-chair, the Ambassador of Switzerland, Heinz Walker-Neckerton, and also working with 3 focal points. When it comes to the recommendations of the IER, we greatly appreciate the genuine dialogue with the authorities and the focal points of the ICC, including the outgoing Deputy Prosecutor, James Stewart, to whom we're very grateful at the end of his 9-year term. The delegation of Uruguay shall continue providing constructive support to the review process. It should be inclusive. It should focus on improving the working methods of the ICC, thereby improving its efficiency and effectiveness within the framework of full judicial independence and independence of the OTP. The OTP, of course, is the veritable backbone of everything that we do, especially when it comes to communications, following situations, and afterwards cases. It has a very heavy schedule, so we've welcomed the proposal from Prosecutor Khan with 2 deputies in charge of teams that are fully integrated. We see that this will be provide for a better rendering of justice and also better gender balance and geographical balance in the distribution of positions within the court. This is very important because the OTP will have to deal with situations that are involving various different cultures. Uruguay would also like to see more advisors or special advisors coming from Latin America and the Caribbean group, as well as from the Asia-Pacific group. We believe that more cultural diversity can only strengthen the work done by the OTP. Madam Vice President, 2022 will be a year where the ICC will face new challenges. There will be an anticipated 2-fold increase in the number of trials and hearings compared to 2021. And therefore, it is very important for financial support from all states parties to be forthcoming. And what this means is that if you are in arrears, you must assign a commitment for your payment plan in order to make sure that we have predictable financial inflows in order to make sure that the court can do its work. At the beginning of the coming year, consultations will begin on the upcoming vacancy for the registrar's office. This is something that has involved the president of the court as well as all of the judges. We are grateful for the fact that it's now involved more interaction with states parties, once the vacancy was published, there was a process that would make it possible to have a moral assessment of the candidates with the participation of the IOM and public presentation events, making it possible to make recommendations to the judges in their entirety. We look forward to the pre-selection carried out by the judges and hope that it will conform to Article 43, Paragraph 3 of the Rome Statute when it comes to diversity. The same would apply for Article 38, Paragraph 8. In any event, we are in great hands with Peter Lewis in the Registrar's Office. Madam Chairperson, Madam Vice President, the victims are the very core of the Rome Statute. This is why it should be impossible for them to be involved in all different stages of proceedings and that their rights to reparation be upheld. This is why we welcome that the FTV has done such a great job over the past year, and we would like to announce that Uruguay will be making a voluntary contribution to the trust fund. We're also grateful to Dr. Felipe Michelini, who chaired the board of directors up until April 2020. We would like to say a warm word of thanks and greetings to the outgoing members and to those who've been recently elected. We'd also like to pay tribute to the work done by the Secretariat of the ASP, making all of the thematic facilitations and review mechanism meetings to take place. We would also like to express our reject for any type of interference, intimidation, or hostility, either in the past and the future. We believe that this is unacceptable for those of us who believe that we have a shared view of clear rules when it comes to international law and the high values that should be upheld by us all in the Rome Statute. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Excellency, for your statement. And I now give the floor to His Excellency, Mr. Fernando Antonio Grillo Rubiano, Ambassador of Colombia to the Netherlands. Excellency, you have the floor.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much, and greetings to Your Excellency Katarina Sekensova, and also to the President of the ASP of the ICC, distinguished delegates. This year, 2021, saw several milestones of major relevance in the relations between Colombia and the International Criminal Court. On the 23rd of November, my country officially submitted the nota verbal announcing the entry into force of the agreement on sentence enforcement. And this ratification, the ratification of this agreement is of great importance because it shows how important our cooperation with the ICC has been, and that we continue to put the necessary wherewithal at the disposal of the court so that it can discharge its mandate. At the same time as that milestone, there was another, which was just as important, on the 28th of October, when the OTP announced that the end of the preliminary examinations in Colombia. Throughout that period, the Colombian judicial institutions had successfully been able to make the most of their interaction with the OTP, and so as to put its expertise to the service of developing its institutions, processes, and jurisprudence. The ICC's OTP also was able to use Colombian experience to draw valuable lessons that might be useful for other countries going forward. The closure of these preliminary examinations, I think, is a recognition of this connection, this link between both parties, and it does serve to highlight the shared will to end impunity for those most serious crimes of interest to the international community. through its president, Colombia, and through the OTP prosecutor Khan, we're able to celebrate the cooperation agreement on that same day, which highlights the symbiotic relationship between both parties, and it's a concrete expression of the respect and authority of our judicial system and our institutionality and how it's grown at the international level. This recognition on the part of the ICC encourages us to keep working towards greater accountability and to consolidate efficient and effective channels for our continued struggle against impunity. We can say that Colombia's story is one of success, and it's been a result of the compromise and commitment, the commitment on the part of the OTP with Colombia, and over the last 17 years of cooperation between both parties. Now, in recognition of the strength of Colombia's institutions, it's a time for us to shoulder the enormous responsibility of continuing to try all of those perpetrators of these serious crimes. The government of Colombia will continue with its firm commitment to support the various jurisdictions operating in its country so as to take great strides forward in its struggle against impunity. With this agreement that's been signed, which is unique to date, the OTP and the judicial authorities in Colombia are continuing to, and will continue in the future, to exchange best practices and experience thanks to the work done during these preliminary examinations. This is very innovative and shows just how positive complementarity can be, and hopefully will lay the basis for new relations between the court and its member states. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Excellency, for your statement. I now give the floor to His Excellency Mr. Jorge Skinercle Arenales, Ambassador of Guatemala to the Netherlands. Excellency, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Vice President, and good morning to you. Guatemala would like to greet all members of the State's President, and in particular to President Silvia Fernandez de Gurmendi. And we want to thank her for her unwavering efforts over this last rather difficult year. We also want to take this opportunity to thank, we wish to underscore our unwavering support to the President and also to the review mechanism and process of the court and the Rome Statute system, and all the processes underway following the IER's recommendations. We also want to acknowledge the work undertaken despite the difficult circumstances connected with the COVID-19, but in particular all of the work undertaken on the reform. There are various different avenues for improvement, and we welcome this excellent opportunity in this in the framework of this reform process to renew our commitment to the court. And we congratulate the arrival of the 6 new judges. We are sure that you will contribute to the court's ongoing independent and impartial work. We wish to commend the new prosecutor on the successful conclusion of the preliminary examinations in Colombia, and we welcome the excellent cooperation also with Venezuela. The ongoing work and under the Registrar Peter Lewis, I think, also deserves a special mention. Madam Vice President, Guatemala would like to reiterate its firm support of the court and its commitment to the struggle against impunity, without which is symbolic of where the court stands in the eyes of the international community. We are also very focused on complementarity. We understand that this notion of subsidiarity is intrinsically linked with the notion of the court as a court of last resort, only when member states are unwilling or unable to prosecute the perpetrators in their own territories. We feel that this notion needs to be made more visible, so that any member states who have not yet ratified need to understand the role of the ICC as a court of last resorts. Similarly, the International Criminal Court does not substitute national courts. The national legislation jurisdictions do have primacy when it comes to investigating or trying the perpetrators of the crimes listed under the statute. Madam Vice President, Guatemala would like to underscore the importance of the IER's recommendations. We think that now, at the end of this very difficult year, we can look back and say that it was a productive, hard-working year. Member states have done our utmost to implement the IER recommendations, and all of us have done this with due observance of our Carta Magna, which is the Rome Statute itself. We need to understand each of these recommendations and see it and see how the way forward will be shaped for years to come. None of us could have imagined the impact that the COVID-19 pandemic would have on us or on our work. The economy of my country has been severely affected, as is the case for many other countries here present in this room, and the effects on the health outcomes in our countries have also been of great significance. And that is why it is important to find all necessary channels for recovering the outstanding funds and for solving the liquidity crisis that the court is facing. We do understand that there will be some member states who will have more difficulty than others in meeting their assessed contributions, and yet we understand that the court needs the financial wherewithal if it's to discharge its mandate, and this needs to be borne in mind when we look at the budget for the upcoming year. The court's need for gender balance, regional balance, and representativeness of the different legal systems from around the world. As the previous speakers has mentioned, the Rome Statute will only be truly universal if this has happened. We feel that this is a chance to make improvements in this regard. Allow me a moment just to reiterate our support for all of the work of the court. We feel that it's a transcendent work which can make a true impact on the ground, and the court requires the unwavering support of all of its states parties and members if it is to reach its lofty objectives. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your statement, Excellency. Now, given the technical difficulties with the video statement by Her Excellency Ms. Dominique Hassler, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Education and Sport of Liechtenstein, we would like to now replay the statement.
Madam President, the meeting of the Assembly of State Parties is taking place at an important moment for the International Criminal Court, and indeed for us state parties. It is all the more regrettable that we are yet again deprived by the circumstances created by the pandemic from gathering in person and to engage in direct contact with each other and the representatives of the court. We wish to express our strong support to you in these challenging times. This session of the Assembly marks a moment both of opportunity and of challenge. The process initiated by the independent expert review can bring the court and state parties together in a new way that allows for constructive cooperation and results in stronger performance and overall impact of the court. We all wish to see efficient and successful judicial proceedings, the best possible use of the resources allocated to the court, and of course, additional progress in the area of universality. We are encouraged by the measures the court has already taken in the area of management, in particular, and hope that we can continue on this path in order to achieve our common goals. As state parties, we must be prepared to extend full political, diplomatic, and financial support to stand up against political attacks against the court. And in doing so, we must show full respect for the basic principles and integrity of the Rome Statute. In particular, judicial independence, impartiality, and the principle of the complementarity as provided for in Article 17 of the treaty. We will only be successful in this effort if we also look at ourselves as state parties and agree on ways to step up our own efforts and to improve our own performance. Madam President, the main strength of the ICC remains the Rome Statute. The high quality and outstanding relevance of the treaty should be appropriately celebrated in the coming year, as we celebrate 20 years of the court's operations. The Rome Statute has stood the test of time and is one of the biggest achievements in the area of treaty making in the past 3 decades. The upcoming anniversary is an important opportunity for us state parties to fully embrace the integrity of the treaty as a whole, whose main parameters should not be subject to discussions or attempts of reinterpretation. At the same time, the Rome Statute must continue being a living document. We recall that the treaty was completed in Kampala when we agreed by consensus on the inclusion of a definition and jurisdiction parameters with regard to the crime of aggression. We are encouraged that more than a third of state parties have ratified the Kampala amendments on the crime of aggression, with Italy soon to become the 42nd state to do so. We have also made other important updates to the Rome Statute, in particular with respect to the jurisdiction over war crimes reflected in Article 8. I am pleased to announce today that the Liechtenstein Parliament has ratified the amendment to Article 8 of the Rome Statute regarding weapons which use microbial or other biological agents or toxins, as well as the amendment relating to intentionally using starvation of civilians as a method of warfare. The Liechtenstein Parliament has also ratified the amendment with regard to Article 124 of the Rome Statute, accepting the deletion of this transitional provision. We will deposit our relevant instruments of ratification early next year. We must remain open to discussing other amendments to the treaty, reflecting the progressive development of international law when necessary. Madam President, one of the most pertinent discussions with respect to the international law is the question of its application to cyberspace. These discussions are unfolding in several fora at the United Nations in particular. But indeed, we must include the Rome Statute and international criminal law more generally in this analysis. This is why, together with 10 other state parties to the Rome Statute, we created a council of advisors that helped produce an in-depth examination of the application of the Rome Statute to cyber warfare. The Council reached the unanimous conclusion that the Rome Statute provisions indeed apply to cyber warfare, without the need of statutory amendment. We invite all members of this Assembly, as well as court officials, to join us in our further examination of this issue. In closing, the ICC continues to be the key institution in the area of international criminal justice. The court deserves our full support, and I am proud that Liechtenstein has been a consistent advocate for the court since the very beginning. We will continue that important work for the victims and survivors, for the rule of law and democracy, for the atrocities that the ICC's very existence has deterred and will help deter in the future. I thank you.
Thank you for the statement, and I'm really glad that we were able to overcome the technical difficulties. We will now proceed to hear statements from observer states. We will start with the pre-recorded statement by Her Excellency Ms. Uzra Zea, Undersecretary of State for Civilian Security, Democracy and Human Rights of the United States of America. Excellency, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President, and greetings from Washington. On behalf of President Biden and Secretary Blinken, I am honored to present remarks on behalf of the United States Observer Delegation to this year's Assembly of States Parties. The ASP is an indispensable pillar of the International Criminal Court's architecture. You are essential to strengthening the court and realizing the promise of justice. The United States recognizes the significance of this moment for the ICC. Approaching 20 years since the Rome Statute entered into force, the court has achieved meaningful advances in justice for victims of the worst crimes known to humanity: crimes against humanity, war crimes, and genocide. The court has established itself as an important part of the multilateral system in the fight against impunity. And over the past year, states parties, ICC officials, and civil society have made substantial progress on efforts to identify and implement reforms that will help the court better achieve its core mandate, including those identified in the comprehensive independent expert review report. The United States is pleased to be at this meeting and stands ready to engage with all of you to continue to advance our shared objective of ensuring accountability for the most serious international crimes. While we maintain our long-standing objection to the court's efforts to assert jurisdiction over personnel of non-states parties absent a Security Council referral or the consent of the state, we believe that our concerns are best addressed through engagement with all stakeholders. We look forward to listening to all those here, from states parties, whose active engagement is critical to the ICC's success, to victims and civil society, who prevail upon all states to find justice for atrocity crimes, and to the leadership and staff of the ICC as they continue to work to strengthen the court as an independent institution. The United States' enduring commitment to justice and accountability for atrocity crimes is deeply embedded in our history, our values, and our policy. In remarking recently on the importance of accountability, President Biden reflected on the historic Nuremberg Tribunal. He said, and I quote, "The tribunal was unlike anything that ever came before. It was not about vengeance. It was about accountability. For only acknowledging the truth can we prevent the repetition of atrocities, which are happening now in other parts of the world. It elevated our conception of the rule of law, set a marker for the future of justice, and uplifted the importance of human rights in international affairs," unquote. The ICC was intended to carry forth those principles. As a court of last resort, it's part of a global system of justice that the United States supports. In the spirit of cooperation, the United States is exploring ways to assist the court's prosecutions, and we're already taking action in several areas, such as using the State Department War Crimes Rewards Program to offer up to $5 million for information leading to the arrest of designated individuals subject to ICC warrants, including the leader of the Lord's Resistance Army, Joseph Kony, and I'm pleased to announce that we've just launched a new campaign about this reward. Exploring opportunities with the national authorities and the ICC in locating and apprehending fugitives, facilitating the travel of witnesses to The Hague to provide testimony to the court, and ongoing diplomatic engagement in support of the court's works, including our recent statements at the UN General Assembly annual debate on the ICC and at the UN Security Council. In addition, and in line with the principle of complementarity that underpins the Rome Statute, the United States continues to press forward on a broad range of efforts to support justice initiatives globally. These efforts include supporting through funding, training, and information sharing, specialized national and regional courts, war crime units, and international investigative mechanisms for atrocity crimes, including, for example, in Kosovo, the Central African Republic, Ukraine, and Iraq. The United States looks forward to engaging with you all this week to further explore ways in which we can work with ASP members to deliver justice for survivors and victims of atrocity crimes. Thank you.
I thank you for your statement. I now give the floor to Mr. Sayed Mehdi Hosseini Esvidvajani, Minister and Deputy Ambassador for Legal and International Affairs of the Islamic Republic of Iran. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Madam Vice President, Excellencies, distinguished delegates. At the outset, I would like to commend all the court and the officials of the Assembly of States Parties for their continued dedicated work in pursuit of accountability for the most serious crimes of concern to the international community as a whole, despite the challenges faced due to the global COVID-19 pandemic. Madam Chair, my delegation would like to congratulate Her Excellency Silvia Fernandez de Gurmendi for her assumption as the President of this August Assembly. I would also like to congratulate His Excellency Judge Hofmansky on his election as the President of the International Criminal Court, as well as the new prosecutor, His Excellency Mr. Karim Ahmad Assad Khan, and all newly elected judges. We hope that Mr. Khan's extensive experience in international criminal justice will aid him well in this time of unprecedented challenges for the court. Furthermore, I would like to appreciate Mrs. Fatou Bensouda, former prosecutor of the ICC, for her endeavors and efforts during her 9-year mandate at the head of the ICC Office of the Prosecutor. Madam Chair, the Rome Statute and the International Criminal Court are acknowledged to be the important pillars of the international framework for upholding justice and rule of law at the international level, which ensures current and future generations that the most serious crimes should have no place in any society, and those responsible will have no place to enjoy impunity. It should be deemed that the rule of law and ensuring justice to not only be a recommendation, but an imperative for human life in a globalized world. It is unfortunate that in recent years, the ICC has been encountered with the illegitimate unilateral bullying and sanctions of a certain state aimed at undermining the court. Unilateral sanction by that state has been manipulated to put pressure on the independent actors in the international arena, which is absolutely a flagrant violation of international law. More importantly, although sanctions against the court were lifted, it appears that imposing sanctions against the court was the United States tactic to buy enough time so as to evacuate its forces from Afghanistan and evade criminal justice for the penetration of serious crimes of concern by its forces. Madam Chair, it seems that violations of international law as a result of the imposition of unilateral and illegal sanctions would be tantamount to the most serious crimes that fall within the jurisdiction of the ICC. It is essential that the ICC remains vigilant to these developments and take appropriate precautionary measures for the benefit of strengthening the rule of law at the international level. My delegation is of the view that strengthening the rule of law at the international level will pave the way to have justice and peace simultaneously and sustainably. International judicial institutions, in particular, the ICC, have an extensive responsibility for this end, as stressed in the report of the United Nations Secretary General A/65/318, dated 20 August 2010, and I quote, "Responsibility of all subjects of international law for fulfilling their obligations is thus essential to any concept of rule of law at the international level." End of quote. The realization of the rule of law and administration of justice at the global level requires the support and coherent action of the ICC and the governments. Contrary to national judicial systems, the ICC is a mere judicial institution lacking enforcement powers, and in order to remain a strong, credible judicial institution, it needs the support and cooperation of states parties in various aspects. Trust between the ICC and the states is playing a crucial role to guarantee a lasting respect for the enforcement of international justice, which stems from impartiality and independence of the ICC and accountability of the states and avoidance of double standards by both. Madam Chair, the Islamic Republic of Iran, as the signatory of the Rome Statute, notes the recent developments related to the role of ICC in situations of Afghanistan and Palestine. With respect to the ICC prosecutor's decision to confine the investigations in the situation of Afghanistan to crimes allegedly committed by the Taliban and the Islamic State, Khorasan province, and to deprioritize other aspects of the investigation, it deems necessary for the Office of the Prosecutor to take into consideration its previous findings in the situation of Afghanistan comprehensively and not merely limit its investigations to one party to the conflict or a specific period of time. It is highly expected that those military forces who committed war crimes in Afghanistan should be responsible and go to justice. Moreover, it is equally significant that His Excellency Mr. Khan commenced the investigations in the situation of Palestine as well. It would be suitable that during the investigations to pay heed to Afghan and Palestinian points of view. We reiterate that both situations have been a touchstone for the evaluation of impartiality and independence of the ICC towards fulfilling its mandate and legal framework created by the Rome Statute, the founding treaty of the Court. It is expected that the Court must pursue its mandate without taking political factors into account to act in the interests of justice. Needless to say that actions speak louder than words. Madam Chair, the Islamic Republic of Iran notes as well that the Court's jurisdiction over the crime of aggression was activated as of 17 July 2018, and so far 41 states have ratified or accepted the amendments on the crime of aggression to the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court. One of the most significant factors in the effectiveness and efficiency of the court is paying due consideration to the crime of aggression, which constitutes a manifest violation of the Charter of the United Nations. We strongly oppose any measures that attempt to influence the judicial and prosecutorial independence of the court through political pressure. Such attempts constitute a clear violation of the international rule of law and justice. Full respect to the core principles and values enshrined in the statute, especially principles of complementarity, must be observed. The complementarity principle in the ICC and consideration of general international law make the ICC have an active role in its interactions with various subjects, particularly with the states. In addition, it assists to prevent any unilateral action based on abusing the ICC. Madam Chair, in conclusion, it is necessary for all of us to make every effort to promote the rule of law and universal application of international law and to advance a more just and prosperous world in order to achieve security, well-being, and human dignity. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
I thank you for your statement, and I now give the floor to Her Excellency, Ms. Annette Pino Rivero, Ambassador of Cuba to the Netherlands. You have the floor, ma'am.
Thank you very much, Madam Vice President. Allow me first of all to extend my congratulations to Madam President and to the Secretariat for the organization of our work and everything that they've been doing to ensure protection against the spread of COVID-19. Our thanks for this. Cuba is delighted to take part in this 20th session of the ASP of the ICC as an observer state and would like to express from the outset its firm commitment to the struggle against impunity for these most serious of crimes that affect the international community. It's not possible to stand on the sidelines in this international context in which conflicts are undermining the security of our nations and peoples, which means that we need a truly independent international jurisdictional institution able to effectively fight against impunity of these most heinous crimes. Cuba maintains its serious reservations concerning the broad powers given to the UN Security Council by virtue of Article 16 of the Rome Statute as concerns the work of the International Criminal Court. These powers lead to concerns that as to whether the court truly has the required independence. We feel that this issue violates the key principle of independence of jurisdictional organs and the transparency and impartiality of the administration of justice. The referrals made to the court by the Security Council confirm a negative trend that is viewed with concern by my country. Cuba reiterates its position in favor of establishing a truly impartial international criminal jurisdiction, one that is not selective, one that is effective, fair, and stands as a complement to the national justice systems, that is truly independent and therefore free of any political interference, which could undermine the very essence for which it was created. Furthermore, we feel that it should continue to function as in complement to national criminal jurisdictions. Cuba also would like to reiterate that the ICC is not unfamiliar with international treaties and the principle of international law. The court needs to respect the principle of law relative to the consent of a state, which is enshrined in Article 11 of the Vienna Convention on the Law of Treaties of 1969, which is broadly known by the states. Similarly, we would like to signal our concern by the precedent that was set by undertaking legal proceedings against nationals from states that are not party to the Rome Statute and that have not accepted its competence in conformity with Article 12 of the Rome Statute. When it comes to the crime of aggression, Cuba believes that it currently lacks a generic focus and it could encompass a broad range of forms of aggression in international relations between states, which is of concern. Even though Cuba is not part of the International Criminal Court, we'd like to reiterate our willingness to continue participating actively in the processes of negotiation when it comes to the institution, in particular the resolution entitled Report of the ICC, which is adopted every year by the Assembly. By way of conclusion, Cuba reaffirms yet again its absolute will to combat impunity and maintains its unwavering commitment to international criminal justice, and looks forward to seeing the court being truly impartial and independent. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your statement, Excellency. On the basis of previous Assembly decisions, the Bureau recommended that the Assembly allocate 45 minutes for the participation in the general debate of observers pursuant to Rule 92 of the Rules of Procedure of the Assembly. I now give the floor to Andrew Buluma, Criminal Justice Advisor of the International Development Law Organization. You have the floor, sir.
Madam President of the Assembly, Mr. President of the International Criminal Court, Mr. Prosecutor of the International Criminal Court, Mr. Registrar, Honorable Ministers, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, esteemed representatives of civil society. The International Development Law Organization, IDLO, welcomes this opportunity to address the Assembly of States Parties to the Rome Statute on its 20th session. IDLO is the only global intergovernmental organization exclusively devoted to promoting the rule of law as an enabler of peace, sustainable development, and human rights. IDLO's mandate is pivotally relevant in a world that is witnessing an increase in violence and armed conflict, large-scale humanitarian crisis, growing authoritarianism, rising inequalities, intolerance, and social tensions, all on the back of the global COVID-19 pandemic. IDLO, in line with the Strategic Plan 2021-2024, anchored in the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, is committed to building more just and peaceful societies by supporting the development of more effective justice systems, laws, and institutions. IDLO's work aligns with the vision of the UN Secretary General who, in our common agenda, which spans the next 25 years of global cooperation, calls for the renewal of the social contract between governments and people and renews the call for states to abide by international law to ensure justice. Through its work, IDLO supports justice institutions, particularly in countries experiencing or emerging from conflict and fragility. IDLO's work in this area spans the entire criminal justice chain to promote accountability and build capacity in investigation, prosecution, adjudication, and post-trial responses. This helps build the strength and resilience of these institutions to support national-level accountability mechanisms for both day-to-day justice as well as the type of transitional justice required in the context of international crimes. IDLO's work to strengthen justice system covers 4 continents, with examples in Ukraine, Philippines, Somalia, and Mali, amongst others. In working with governments, justice institutions, civil society, and informal systems, IDLO puts people and their human rights at the center of justice systems. In its 2020-2021 annual report, the International Criminal Court speaks of its continued efforts to enhance cooperation with national, regional, and international judicial and law enforcement networks to assist with national proceedings where appropriate in accordance with the principle of complementarity. IDLO also works to support such judicial and law enforcement networks and welcomes future collaboration with its partners in the international community to further strengthen the capacity of criminal justice institutions. Thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you for your statement. I now give the floor to Ms. Jennifer Nauri, President of the International Criminal Court Bar Association. You have the floor, ma'am.
Madame la Vice-Présidente.
Madam Vice President, Excellencies, distinguished participants, the debates at the ASP are always a prime moment to take stock of how far the court has come, how you, the states parties, and all other stakeholders in international justice are doing their jobs and look forward. It's a privilege for the ICCBA to have the opportunity to speak before the Assembly and to provide you with independent opinions of personnel defending victims, the accused, friends of the court, the states, here at the court. We would like to reiterate our congratulations to the outgoing president and friend and the prosecutor on his election, and we look forward to fruitful cooperation with you. We also would like to welcome all of the new judges who shall be taking up functions in the court. The year behind us has been very productive for our institution, despite the difficult context we all had to contend with. The priorities of the ICCBA were, first of all, to uphold the principle of equality of arms between the defense and the prosecution, and also to cater to the needs of victims. This means that certain income taxes are withheld as required by the host state. We also focus on an improvement of working conditions that will give rise to legal assistance that will make it possible for more people to have access to their full rights, including maternity leave or sick leave. This also is related to the resolution on income tax. This is of essential importance because most of the legal teams are made up of women. So we would call on all states parties to help the judicial assistance process. We have concrete proposals to share with you that reflect the realities and the budget realities of the court. When it comes to gender, we would like to go on record in pointing out the excellent job done by the working group on gender parity well-being in the workplace. As the first chairperson, a woman first chairperson of this association, I'm fully apprised of the responsibilities that lie ahead. From the very outset of my term of office in October, I met with the gender parity coordinator within the ICC, and I've been awarded the title Gender Champion. The objectives will always be to speak in favor of a safer workplace with no harassment at all, and that reflects a sensitivity to gender issues in the hearing rooms. And it's on these bases that the ICCBA will continue to work hand in glove with the court and act as a partner in order to make improvements for all of those men and women alike who are working for international justice, be it on behalf of the prosecutor, the defense, the victims, or the registrar. Together, we can and must do better. The ICCBA has also played its role as the interlocutor on a number of operational issues of import. For example, we were actively involved in the discussions on the reform of legal assistance, and in particular as part of the review mechanism. We've worked closely here with the facilitator of the Hague Working Group, His Excellency, the Ambassador of El Salvador. Her Excellency, we would like to thank her for having initiated a constructive dialogue between the states parties and other key players, including the staff of the ICCBA and the registrar. We're grateful to the registrar and to the Director of Legal Services, who we've had very constructive cooperation. We've been able to lay down the main principles that make it possible for us to make efficient strides forward in the field of legal assistance. We would also like to welcome one point of progress. The constitution of our association has been amended in order to make sure that support staff is also included in our deliberations. This really reflects the broad harmony of voices who are working with great dedication, often in difficult and trying circumstances within the legal teams. The ICCBA this year once again has shown that it is a reliable and important partner to the court and the Assembly of States Parties when it comes to achieving the overarching universal principles set forth in the Rome Statute that shall continue into the future. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much for your statement. Lastly, the Bureau also recommended that 45 minutes be allocated to non-governmental organizations for the delivery of statements at the end of the general debate. Therefore, we now invite representatives of non-governmental organizations to present their statements. As the first speaker, I give the floor to Ms. Melinda Reed, acting convener of the Coalition for the International Criminal Court. You have the floor.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it is with honor that I address you as the acting convener of the Coalition for the ICC. We are a global network of civil society organizations working to ensure that the ICC is fair, effective, and independent. We participate in this session in large numbers, with several human rights defenders attending in person and hundreds of NGO representatives following the proceedings online. The Coalition appreciates the unique consultative status we have had with the Court and the Assembly of States Parties, and we urge you to maintain and strengthen the openness of ASP processes for civil society. The promise of the Rome Statute continues to be threatened by a global climate that is characterized by a decline in multilateral engagement and rising tides of hostility, discrimination, and repression around the world. The ICC itself continues to face a great number of challenges in its work, including resource issues, an ever-growing workload, and external political attacks and measures. We appeal to you to express your strong and continued political commitment to the Rome Statute and the ICC throughout this ASP session. Similarly, civil society organizations and human rights defenders continue to face immense challenges for their work with the Court. We again look to you to support, defend, and protect human rights defenders, their families, and their work, and to condemn all attacks and threats against them. The Coalition as a whole does not take a position on specific candidates in ICC and ASP elections. However, we are united in urging you to ensure a proactive, fair, informed, and transparent election process for all elections, particularly now for the Deputy Prosecutor and ICC Registrar elections. Our CICC elections team welcomes the proposal to develop a permanent vetting mechanism for ICC elections. This is relatively new territory for the ICC and the ASP. We believe that consultations on the development of the mechanism, including with civil society and other experts, can ensure the highest standards and best practices in place elsewhere. Allow me to stress once again that all ICC and ASP elections should be free from vote trading or any consideration apart from ensuring the Court benefits from the highest quality leadership. Decisions on election processes will have a lasting impact in the years to come, especially for communities affected by the Court's work. It is crucial to get it right. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the CICC team on the independent expert review has called for the review process to be guided by transparency, inclusivity, and respect for the Court's judicial and prosecutorial independence. Genuine and meaningful participation of civil society in the substantive discussions of the recommendation should be encouraged and facilitated. This in particular for civil society from situation countries and countries under preliminary examination. The team identified and encourages the following priorities in the IER process: the need to put victims and affected communities at the center of the Court's work, guarantee the highest standards of fair trial rights, improve cooperation and strengthen political support, address issues of gender equality and workplace conduct, and ensure the Court has adequate resources to carry out its mandate. Turning to the Court's resources, we urge states to oppose arbitrarily limiting the Court's 2022 budget. Governments should enable the Court to effectively execute the mandate they have given it without political or arbitrary limitations. States parties should rethink the process of assessing and approving the Court's annual budget, including through eliminating the zero-growth approach. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, 2021 has been another difficult year as the global pandemic continues to impact countries, communities, and individuals, forcing us to adapt to new realities. Looking ahead at 2022, which will coincide with the 20th anniversary of the entry into force of the Rome Statute and 10 years after the Court's first verdict, we continue to stand ready to help strengthen the Court and protect its integrity and independence. Thank you.
I thank you for your statement, and I now give the floor to Mr. Lambert Nigarura on behalf of the Coalition Burundaise pour la Cour Pénale Internationale. You have the floor, sir.
Merci, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, for the Coalition Burundaise for the ICC and for myself, an honor and a huge privilege to have this opportunity to take the floor before this August Assembly. in order to speak to you about the current state of play in human rights 4 years after our country, Burundi, withdrew from the International Criminal Court and the Rome Statute. This gives us the opportunity to speak in favor of everything that the court has done, as well as the Office of the Prosecutors, in an investigation that has for crimes against humanity committed in Burundi starting in April 2015 and coming up all the way to the present day. This has been proven in 5 concordant reports carried out by the International Investigation Commission in Burundi. Now, when the regime decided to pull Burundi out of the Rome Statute, it did so in order to make sure that the authors of repression would remain unpunished. It seems that it's now possible for the authors of these serious violations of human rights are now able to have no fear for their own fate. Political space has been completely locked down. Civil society organizations have been eliminated. Independent radio stations have been destroyed and burned. So it's make it impossible for anybody to speak out in opposition of the regime. And in fact, after a few months after the elections that brought the new head of state to power, 12 human rights advocates have been sentenced to life imprisonment because they helped denounce the crimes that were to be under investigation. Now, even though the situation is very serious, the international community hasn't completely closed its eyes. The European Union and the United States have taken or imposed targeted sanctions against the authors and those behind these crimes. But some countries now are starting to see what's happened. The victims are afraid that the investigation will be suspended, and this will make it impossible to break the cycle of impunity and to restore the fundamental values that are shared by all humankind. We have no doubt that the court will do everything it can to cater to the needs of the family of victims to impartial and fair justice. On behalf of the families in this crisis, we would express our great gratitude to all of those who stepped forward and helped us to make sure that these violations of human rights do not go unpunished. For your information, 15 months after the new government took over, the investigation commissions of the United Nations in Burundi is unequivocal. It says that behind a veil of normalization, human rights violations continue apace, and the democratic arena has been completely shut down. This is the title of a press communique on the investigation that was posted online on the 16th of September 2021, and you can still see it on the website. The United States has decided, nonetheless, to suspend its targeted sanctions that had been in place since 2015, and this makes it that much worse for the victims of these violations. The international community, and in particular the states party to the Rome Statute, are called upon to remain ever vigilant about this situation and make sure that the court has all the means necessary, as well as the OTPs, has everything in hand to close these investigations and restore a glimmer of hope to the families of the victims. Long live international, independent, and effective justice. Thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you very much for your statement. I now give the floor to Mr. Khaled Imam on behalf of Justice Call. You have the floor, sir.
السيد الرئيس أصحاب السعادة السيدات والسادة.
Mr. President, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Khaled Imam, and I'm honored to address you today on behalf of Justice Call, which is a regional youth-led organization based in the Middle East and North Africa region. We promote human rights and rule of law, and we believe that the perpetrators of these heinous crimes would not have committed them if they knew that justice would be served in reality. Some of these crimes have had a great impact on international peace and security. Despite the death of nearly 500,000 civilians in Syria and the death of nearly 300,000 people in Darfur, and the hundreds of thousands of deaths in Yemen and Libya, most of them children, youth, and women, many of the perpetrators of these humane acts are still in power, and the road to justice and accountability is still long. Unfortunately, accountability has not been achieved. All of this points to the utter decay in the national justice systems across the Middle East and North Africa region. And this is why we believe that supporting and strengthening the role of the International Criminal Court in the MENA region is the best solution and perhaps the last chance to ensure redressal, compensation, and rehabilitation for the victims and holding those responsible accountable. However, significant interventions by the ICC have remained very limited in the MENA region so far. Unfortunately, only a few Arab countries have ratified or acceded to the Rome Statute, and other states that fall within ICC jurisdiction over atrocity crimes do not cooperate enough in investigation and conviction procedures. Ladies and gentlemen, civil society organizations in the countries I referred to play an important role in strengthening justice systems and human rights and fighting impunity. Despite their important contribution, they face grave dangers, including murder, torture, travel bans, and threat to their families as a result of their bravery and courage in the face of power. There is an international obligation to support them. The United Nations Security Council Resolution 2535 of 2020 on youth, peace, and security calls upon member states to end impunity and investigate and prosecute those responsible for genocide, crimes against humanity, war crimes, and other egregious crimes perpetrated against civilians. This requires cooperation from regional governments, especially in countries like Syria and Yemen. My organization stands by the ICC and the Assembly of State Parties, and we believe that the civil society organization can enhance their efforts and help bridge the gap between the ICC and grassroots communities. And this is why we call upon the ICC to adopt comprehensive strategies that would help civil society organizations and to adopt strategies in order to help and safeguard these organizations that face real threats as a result of their work with the ICC. Finally, I would like to take this opportunity to call upon more Arab countries to enhance cooperation with the ICC at the national and regional levels to ensure the implementation of the Rome Statute by strengthening national justice systems to respect and abide by human rights within the framework of the principle of complementarity. It is only through these collective efforts that we can work on bringing the perpetrators before justice and achieving justice for all. Thank you.
I thank you for your statement. Dear colleagues, the time for the general debate statement has been exhausted, and we will continue with the NGO statements at a plenary meeting later this week. I would like to thank all the speakers for their statements presented during the general debate item so far. Now we will continue with the informal consultations on the budget in the hybrid form. With in-person participants in this room, but also participants connecting virtually via WebEx. I would kindly, therefore, request other attendees to please leave the conference room. It will give us about 5 minutes break for those who would attend the budget meeting. Unless there are any requests for the floor, this agenda is closed and the meeting is adjourned. It's so decided.